story. This came from here. Fact. The Mutoko Rural District Council made $45,000 from the sale of the granite that was used to build this magnificent building. Can you take a guess how much the company that exported the granite got from the granite? A wild guess would be 500,000 or maybe $1 million if you're being generous. Because let's face it, laws of business are universal everywhere. Businesses are in business to make a profit. But what if I told you the company that exported this granite from Mutoko was paid a staggering $9 million? You heard me right, $9 million. Factor in their labor costs, their transportation costs, their beneficiation costs, and any other legitimate business costs. Add them all up, you still would not imagine that after paying the Mutoko Rural District Council a measly $45,000 in royalties for 2.5 square meters of absolute granite, after cutting and polishing the granite, would make a tidy sum of $9 million. The math, my friend, does not add up. One would ask, what is wrong with this in business? True, but even in business, communities that businesses operate in should and must benefit from the extraction of natural resources in their community. After all, that is what Section 13 of the Zimbabwe Constitution clearly states. This is not and has not been the case in Mutoko, where this much sought after black granite is mined. Welcome to this edition of True Story, where we dive deep into the story behind the headlines, behind the thinking behind the headlines. A deep dive into the real truth behind the everyday stories that affect everyday people. Today we explore the sad and deplorable case of the Mutoko people. Black granite in Mutoko has been mined since the 70s. What do the people of Mutoko have to show for it? This begs the question, what rights do the people of Mutoko have over their land, over the resources right underneath their homes? Or is it their land? There lies the pinch. The case of Mutoko, just like any other area where natural resources or mineral resources are found, is a nexus point between two conflicting. Mutoko by definition is communal, and thus the land in question by extension is communal land. And what does the Constitution say about communal land? Who owns it? Who controls it? Who has the right to distribute it? What are the state rights over communal land? The Constitution under Section 332 defines communal land as land set aside under an Act of Parliament and held in accordance with customary law by members of a community under the leadership of a chief. By this definition, it follows that people who live there as members of a traditional community, like the Mutoko people, do hold the land, whether collectively or individually, in accordance with the customary law. Their rights in and over the land are recognized by the Constitution. So if by right they own this land, why are they not benefiting from it? In comes the first statute, the Mines and Minerals Act of 1963. Firstly, this act is old, like Ian Smith old. So from the get-go, we're dealing with a law enacted by the Smith regime for the benefit of the Smith regime. Why has this law not been changed? Is the question for another day. But what does this law have to do with the extraction of granite in Mutoko? Let's unpack it. Section 26 of that act states that the communal land is open to prospecting. Although prospectors may not prospect near the homesteads, buildings, or cultivated land, but what is the truth on the ground? Granite companies are prospecting right next to homesteads, to buildings, even in cultivated land, which is ultra vis the letter of the law. As a matter of fact, people are being displaced from their homes to make way for granite quarry mines. In the case of displacements, the Constitution clearly states that before someone can be deprived of their property under Section 71, the deprivation must be necessary in the interest of defense, public safety, public order, public morality, public health, town and country planning, or in order to develop the property for a purpose beneficial to the community. Which begs the question, why are these quarry mines being beneficial to the community? Are they contributing towards the development of this community? The answer is clear, no. So why are these quarry mines being allowed to not only expand, but to operate with impunity? treating the Mutoko people like they have no rights. Historically, owners and occupiers of land have never owned the minerals under their land, which has always vested in the state. Maybe this gives the companies the power to treat Mutoko people as they please, knowing fully well that the government will, in any dispute, side with the capital. Because as we say now, Zimbabwe is open for business. Under this act, the occupiers of land taken for mining purposes do not receive compensation unless prospecting or mining takes place on cultivated land or in the close vicinity of buildings. In truth, granite companies operate in Mutoko are operating in the gray margins of the law, offering compensation ranging between $3,000 to $4,000 for the appropriation of land, $3,000 to $4,000 for land that would have been in people's lineages for generations. Can that small figure pay for the memories, the historical significance of ancestral graves, the destruction of the communal fabric as families and communities are torn apart, let alone developments on the land are disturbance of livelihoods? They say money can't buy happiness, but surely just fair compensation can be a start to a new happy life. Granite miners would argue they are operating as provided for by the existing laws, both customary as they work with chiefs and statutory as they pay royalties to the government. It might be legal, but is it fair? Is it moral? Is it ethical? And most importantly, is it just? One would argue that stronger land rights would benefit the Mutoko people in the exploitation of the black granite, and these can only be enacted by the government to protect its citizens, whilst balancing the interest of investment. But the wheels of legislation do not move at a fast speed. If the Mines and Minerals Act of 1963 is still in effect now and has taken forever just to be amended for the better, what hope is there to change it? And change it quickly. So how can the Mutoko people join in the profitable bandwagon of the black granite quarry mining game? Easy. They should get mining concessions. Well, that's a good suggestion. They should get mining concessions. But how do they get these concessions? How does anybody get these concessions? How do companies get mining concessions? Who decides who mines where? And it seems granite mining companies are on the increase in Mutoko, most from Europe and lately the Chinese. The question still remains, where are the Mutoko people in this matrix? How do we get them involved in the exploitation of resources in their own backyard? Under the Mines and Minerals Act, the Minister and the Secretary for the Ministry of Mines and Mining Development have the responsibilities of issuing mining titles, licenses, and approvals. The process, not an easy task for your everyday villager. More can be done by the government to include the people of creation of communal sovereign funds where mining companies can contribute to the betterment and equitable, adequate compensation of people whose land is appropriated. Create a fair and transparent land dispute mediation process that does not favor the mining companies. The biggest challenge with the Mutoko granite mining is that the people of Mutoko are being left behind. Their ancestral lands appropriated, their environment degraded, the very fabric, the essence of being Mutoko is being torn apart. The law favors capital. Customary law custodians like chiefs are for the most part in the pocket of the mining companies who help them exploit the villages because they do not understand the law. If the companies mining in Mutoko developed the area, there wouldn't be so much noise and complaints. But this is exploitation without development. It is incumbent upon the government to fix the laws so that there is clarity and that mining companies stop taking advantage of the people because of the loopholes in the existing land rights laws. If you are Zimbabwean and thinking, this has nothing to do with me, it's for the people of Mutoko, think again. This country is endowed with a multiplicity of minerals. It could be your community next that faces this fight. So let's put our heads together and find solutions that welcome investments whilst at the same time develop communities that have been on this land for generations. These are our resources on our land. We all deserve a share. Our land, our future.